Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and I'll tell you what, it's match day, but we've got an amazing show this morning. Some fantastic, well, I don't know, I think I've got the word wrong. I don't think it's fantastic comments from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this morning, but some very interesting comments around Manchester United and transfers, which if you follow me on Twitter at Mark Goldbridge, I did say something hours before this came out, and obviously that information that I got correlates with what Ole has then said a few hours later. So we'll be talking about that. Donny van de Beek injury blow, potentially a swap with Inter Milan for Lautaro Martinez. Interesting on that one. A few other things as well in relation to a Sancho bid. Pogba. Loads and loads to get into this morning. I'm really looking forward to it. But before I do that, let me just say we are sponsored by the OneFootball app. As I said yesterday, the link is in the video description. I'm pleased to say our friends at OneFootball are back sponsoring the show. I use OneFootball all the time. Yesterday morning, it had the Kalanoglu story that many people were talking about. OneFootball is an awesome app if you're looking for live scores, football transfer news, and up-to-date content surrounding Manchester United and all other leagues as well. But as an added bonus, and the reason we're doing this again today is that OneFootball is levelling up even more today, allowing its users to watch the Dortmund quarter-final match in the DFB Polka tonight. So I'll certainly be making sure I'm watching that to see how Jadon Sancho gets on. It's free to watch on the OneFootball app. The link is in the video description for Apple and Android. So what you're waiting for, head down to the description, get all your latest Man United transfer news on there throughout the day, but also Dortmund are on there. So make sure you download it for free. The link is in the video description. We will be talking a little bit about Jadon Sancho in a moment as well, but let's start off with this game, which is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has spoken about, and that is this. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said that, he's basically given a big Manchester United transfer warning. And that is that many clubs, well, let me just read the direct quotes. I think it's always easier to do that. But basically what he's saying is that many clubs will not be making signings this summer. Let me just read the exact quote. I think there's going to be less and less transfers happening in the world of football with all these changes. We have to be realistic in the way we do our business, both on and off the pitch, and it's going to impact on many other clubs. And he also went on to say things such as we've got to look at how we're going to spend in relation to being realistic and responsible. There's the training ground, there's the stadium that needs work, and we've got to look at where we can spend our money. Now, look, I've got no interest in any other football club in England other than Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City. I don't give a shit what Southampton, what Newcastle and what any other club are doing that are below us. Now, I know we're second in the league at the moment, so you look at Man City and it's a one-horse race. But I still think Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City will spend this summer. I don't want to listen to, and I don't blame Solskjaer for this, he is just a voice for the people who run the club. But to say that we are, not many people are going, a lot of clubs are going to struggle this summer, and that, we've got to be responsible, and I don't think anybody's going to do many transfers. I don't care about what other clubs are going to do, because the only clubs that matter are Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea, and they are going to spend this summer. So stop throwing us into the clubs below us that we've never been. We're Manchester United. We are the Juventus of England. We are the Barcelona of England. We are the PSG of England. We are the biggest club in England. Stop talking and throwing us in with other clubs that are falling on hard times. Stop saying that we've got to look at where we're going to spend our money because we might have to spend it on the ground. We might have to spend it on training. This is a load of shite. It really irritates. And look, there'll be people more irritated than me about this morning because we're talking like we're a Poundland club. We're talking like we have low revenues. We have some of the biggest revenues in the world. Manchester United are super rich. The reason we don't have money is because the people who bought us put us into debt. The reason we don't have money is because they take dividends out of the club. Don't come out publicly like Oliver Twist. More, please, more. Screaming like you're a pauper or poverty. We're not a club in poverty. We've plunged into poverty and a lack of being able to spend because of who runs the club. I tell you what, I never thought I would see the day where we're actually coming out pleading poverty when we're Manchester United Football Club. Go and do your own research at the revenues of this football club year on year on year on year. The reason we've always moaned is that we know we've got the money, but the owners don't want to spend it because they want to keep it. To now come out and say, everyone's in a bad position, no one's going to be able to spend money. What a load of crap. You can spend money if you want to. If you don't want to spend money, that's up to you as the owners of the football club. And that decision has been made many a time before. But don't come out and try and plead poverty that, oh, we've got to be careful, we've got to be responsible. I'll tell you what, if Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea are all responsible this summer, I will revisit this video, I will clip it and I will apologise. But do you think that the teams that want to be the best are going to sit back and go, oh, it's really hard for everybody? Will they? Heck. Tuchel's just been given a job. He's not had a transfer window. He will get spending. Klopp is looking to bounce back. He will get spending. And Man City will get spending. So why do I give a shit about what Southampton are doing or any other club that's struggling? We're Manchester United. Why are we suddenly a football club that falls into line with other clubs and goes, everybody's going to struggle? You know, we're all in the same boat. It's going to be difficult for everyone. And he starts talking about maybe having to play the youth. Well, we should play the youth because we're Manchester United. But I tell you what, this is a dangerous path we're going down now. We are starting to get public sound bites that we are in poverty as a football club and that we've got to be really, really careful. I tell you what, it just doesn't wash well with me because it's not fair. It's not fair on the fans who swallow this nonsense. And look, there's louder voices than me. There's people who've spent years, decades under the Glazer control trying to be vocal about all the problems. And look, financial stuff is very, very deep and I don't want to bore you. But the reality is the club was bought on debt. It is still in debt. Our owners have taken more dividends out of this club than any other owner in the Premier League over the last few years. And yet our manager comes out publicly and says it's going to be hard to do transfers. Everyone's going to struggle. We've got to spend on the ground. We've got to spend on training. It's about where we spend. Like it's like your granddad's giving you 10 million for Christmas for your birthday. Where am I going to spend it? Will I get some school shoes? Will I get this? We're Manchester United, for God's sake. We're Manchester United, and what they're trying to do, and I've been saying this for years, it's all about lowering expectations whilst taking money out of the club. If they can keep you spending money on the club, but understanding that it's hard, whilst also taking money off to pay the debts and taking their dividends, winner, winner, chicken dinner. And this is the thing. I'm not saying there's a solution. I'm really not saying there's a solution. I don't think that there is a solution. Until these owners start running us like a football club and stop running us like a personal little bank, then I don't think there is going to be a solution. But I'm not going to sit here when Solskjaer has been put up by the club to sit there and say, well, we're in a really hard position. You know, everyone's going to struggle. We can't expect big signing. Because that's what he's basically saying. He's basically saying, don't expect many signings this summer. Now, the funny thing is, if you check my Twitter yesterday afternoon at Mark Goldbridge, I said, and I'd been told this yesterday afternoon, the news out of United unofficially is that they won't be spending big this summer. They won't be going above their normal 50 to 60 million net spend. And if Sevilla or Real Madrid want 60 million for Koundé or Varane, they'll go for Pau Torres for 40 million. So does that sound to you like a club that's looking to close the gap on Manchester City? Does that sound to you like a club that wants to win a Premier League title seriously? Koundé, 60 million, but we're not paying that, so we'll go and get a third-rate centre-back in Torres because we'd rather save money. You get what you pay for. One of the things I've learnt in life is that, especially as I've got older, when it comes to food, you know, if you pay 30 quid for a steak and chips or you pay 5 quid for a steak and chips, the 30 quid one is going to be better. You pay for what you get, right? If you pay 60 million for Koundé, but you'd rather get Pau Torres for 40, you're going to get a better player for 60 million at football. That's the way it's going to work. So everything that Manchester United seem to do over the last 15 years is underlined by money. It's always about the money. It's never about the player. Very few times have we gone out and got a player. We've made some big bloody mistakes, but that's down to incompetence. But a lot of the time it's about money. And I feel sorry for Solskjaer because I think yet again, this is not aimed at Solskjaer. I think yet again, Solskjaer let the cat out the bag in relation to what he wants, which is what you want. He wants players. Because amongst all this party line, and remember, Solskjaer sat publicly in front of the world's media. He's not winging it. He's got a script. Like, he has got a script. When he gets asked about transfers, he's not just going, I'm going to say what I want. He will have been told. He will have been well briefed by the club what the situation... If you get asked about... This is Manchester United. I mean, it's not quite Boris Johnson doing a Prime Minister's bloody press conference about COVID, but it's Manchester United manager doing a press conference to the world. they will have briefed him on, if they ask you about transfers, this is the party line. It's going to be a difficult summer. We probably, ultimately we're not going to spend much money, Ollie. So we want them to be prepared for that. But we don't want to kill the hype, because remember all the clicks we'll get for Sancho and this, that and the other. But 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. You've got the manager and the club basically saying it's going to be a hard summer for everybody, and we'll just have to cut back. But then you've got stories about Sancho, you've got stories about Haaland, all the stories that they want you to think are happening, but the reality is there. And as I said, I was told yesterday that Manchester United will not be spending big in the summer. Their net spend won't probably not even be as big as the last couple of years, which has been 60 to 70. It's probably going to be more around 50 again. And what do you get for £50 million? Of course, they could go beyond that if they sell some players, but if Pogba's staying now, that's 50 million they're not going to generate. Where's the rest of the money going to come from? So the reality is, the big line is, don't expect major changes at Manchester United this summer. And I think that's what we've got to go into. And amongst all the Varans and the Sanchos and the Haalands, the question has to be, when the manager's coming out and saying, we've got to be responsible, we've got to look at where we can spend money. Many clubs are going to be in the same position as us, all clubs, not just us. Well, for me, the big thing I would say is that the noise coming out of United at the moment is that we're not going to spend money. Now, you'll find people on social media saying, it's all a smokescreen. It's all a smokescreen. They're just doing it so Dortmund and Real Madrid don't think we've got any money. Dortmund and Madrid can do the same thing many of you will do after this show. You'll go and search on internet and you'll look at what Manchester United's revenue is over the last few years, and you'll be able to see Man United do have money. They just don't really want to spend it, because it's always going to be about dividend. You can speculate to accumulate in football. You can. You could go, look, right, lots of people haven't got money this summer. We're going to spend a little bit more because we'll get more for our money. It's a bit like a fire sale, isn't it? There are loads of bargains to be had this summer. This summer you could probably spend 100 million, 150 million, and then next summer not really spend that much, because you've done most of your signings now and you've got them on the cheap. So there's loads of things a business can do. A lot of, it's like the old adage, isn't it? If you're a salesman and you're struggling, do you downsize your car and downsize your suit, or do you go and get a Ferrari on finance and get a nice suit? Because perception is everything, isn't it? Some people will speculate to accumulate. And the reality is, you can definitely speculate at Manchester United, because over the next decade, we will make loads of money at Manchester United, because we're always going to be a big club. But the club will always feed you this, it's tight, it's tight. The reason they want you to believe it's tight is because they want to keep it tight. Because they want to keep it tight so they can take the money for themselves. Biggest mistake we made was Maguire for 80 million when he's not even worth 60. He's not even a captain. Bruno's our captain, says I'm just Lee. If we are not spending on players, why are they continually taking dividends to Florida? When will this fan base wise up? Why can't we rebuild the academy alone? And last summer wasn't a success. 2009 repeat incoming, says and Glazers out, says Nick O'Keefe. At this moment in time, I will just be stunned and happy if we have a good summer transfer window. I think at the moment it's very obvious what's going to happen. It's not the first time yesterday that I've been told that there's not going to be very much business going on. I even got told yesterday there's quite a big chance that Jesse Lingard will be back as a United player next summer. Now, I don't think that's a good idea. He would just be a bench player, but it's all about saving money. So, I don't expect a good summer, and just before we move on, there are people on social media saying, "Oh, this is a clever move by Ollie and United. They're going to make everyone think we've got no money, and we'll get everyone cheap." And I'm just like, that's one of the most basic things I've ever heard. It's like the cup and the 3 cups, and you're moving the ball around, but you're rubbish at it. Everyone knows the money's under the cup. Like they know we've got money. We're Manchester United, and going back to that previous point, they also know we're rubbish at negotiations as well. So it's not like, all right, we're trying to be shrewd in the business market, but do you know who negotiates for us? We can't be shrewd. We haven't got a director of football. So when United are feeding out that we haven't got any money, it's because we haven't got any money, basically. So, and they're not blatantly saying we haven't got any money, but they are saying, they are preparing us. And our net spends over the last 3 transfer windows, correct me if I'm wrong, on average it's about 60 to 70 million net spend. I know we spent 80 on Maguire and 50 on Wan-Bissaka, but that was the summer we sold Lukaku, wasn't it, for 70? So our net spends are around 60 to 70 million. I wouldn't expect it to be that high this summer. So Anybody who think we're going beyond that, you're having a laugh. Our net spend, and net spend for people who don't know, is if you spend £80 million on Harry Maguire and you sell Romelu Lukaku for 70, you have spent 80 million, but your net spend is 10 because you take the 70 off. Basically, net spend is everything you spend minus everything that you sell. So our net spend, I don't think, will be anything more than 50 million this year. And you've got to look at who we're going to sell to bump that up. So I'm not expecting... I mean, if we get a centre-back and Sancho, I think that you should have a party. If COVID allows, you should have a party, because that would be... It wouldn't be a good summer. It's not good enough. You still haven't got a CDM, which is essential. But I'm not expecting anything great. But I do feel for Solskjaer, because what he also said amongst all the party line of and anybody who's joining us a little bit late. So Solskjaer was speaking in his press conference, embargoed bit last night. All clubs are in this boat, not just us. I don't think there's going to be many transfers. You've got to be realistic and responsible. The training ground and the stadium need improving, and it's about where we can spend money. So basically, feeding out that don't expect much this summer. But as I said, when he says all clubs are in the same boat, I don't care about all clubs. The only clubs I'm really interested in are the ones above us, and that's Man City, Liverpool will be next year, and maybe Chelsea. They're the only 3 clubs I care about. Now, do you think Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City are going to sit on their hands and go, oh, it's a difficult market, we're not going to do anything? All 3 of those clubs are going to spend. But even if all 3 of them don't, 2 of them will. And even if all 3 of them, they will spend. I think all 3 of them will. But Man United want to now position themselves with, oh, look at Southampton. They didn't spend much money. We're all in the same boat. We're not Southampton. We're meant to be competing with Manchester City and Chelsea and Liverpool. They're the clubs we compare ourselves to. Don't let your eyes get moved away by this poverty plea, which is ridiculous. And I'm sure, like me, you're going to be looking at stuff this afternoon and this morning about what our revenues are over the last few years and what they're predicted to be over the next few years. And poverty is a joke, an absolute joke. Never winning anything with this board. So infuriating as fans, talking about ambitions being the best in Europe, yet spend like a mid-table club. Players like Bruno will leave and won't come in the future. Well, that is the danger, Angie. That is the danger with that. They don't realise spend more, win more equals profit, says Kirkham. I know for bankers and people who are experts in finance, I've never understood how they don't figure that out. Imagine if Mark was director of football, says Joe Harty. Well, you'd still have the problem of how much we spend, but I don't need to imagine me. I would love to imagine loads of you as director of football, because if I was director of football at Manchester United, I would clear house. This summer, I would get rid of 6 or 7. I would do it. And people say, well, it's not easy to do. It is easy to do. You're just going to have to... It's not my responsibility. I'm not going to sit there with Ollie and say... I'd say to Ollie, bullshit. You're not sitting here having this shit in your training squad anymore. It's not fair on you. It's not fair on the club. It's not fair on the fans. Why are you having to inherit past mistakes? Right, let's get rid of Phil Jones. Are you ever going to use him? No, but he's on $4 million a year. Well, fuck it. He's on $4 million a year here or not here, is he? Let's pay him off. Let's get him out of the club. Well, we're not paying him off. But you're going to pay him anyway for the next 3.5 years, and we don't want him here. It's your mistake. Pay him off. Let's do it. Let's clear house. Let's start from there, first of all. The reality is they talk about the problems on the pitch and being 3 years away from titles. I think we're 30 years away from titles, because we're always going to be 3 years or 30 years away from a title when we're not making the changes behind the scenes. You can't perform in front of house when everything's chaotic behind it. It's like running a theatre production. You cannot be organised to go out in front of an audience and perform a good show when everything behind you is chaotic. Calahanoglu deal done from Spanish news outlet. No, Hadrian. I'm not reading out that outlet. It's the biggest load of shit ever. They've been around for a couple of years. They just spout shit. Really do. I love the honest opinions. I'm so grateful to have found it a few years ago. Let's get that million and have a party in the USA to celebrate, says Brian Kelly. Yeah, please do subscribe, by the way. Bottom right-hand corner. We're about 30 subscribers away from 997. So bottom right-hand corner to subscribe. It is match day, and I have got to go through the team news in a minute as well. There's so much to go through this morning. Sorry, it might be a little bit of a longer show, but I'm sure you won't mind too much because we've got a lot to go through this morning. So just to cap that off, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did also say we're always looking to improve, and even he threw that in. This is why this is not about Solskjaer. Solskjaer is basically, and we've all been in this position. You stand in front of the press or you go out to a customer You know, like if you I've worked as a waiter. I was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. I wasn't a waitress. I've never dressed as a woman. But I have been a waiter. And it's always great as a waiter when somebody, you know, there's arseholes out there. You take, and it was a good restaurant as well. You take them out a meal. They go, I don't like that, it's disgusting, I want this. So you take it back to the chef. The chef goes, what's wrong with it? You end up as the person in between. The customer's not happy, the chef won't come out, and you're the one getting it in the ear from both. And I'm like, you feel like just throwing the plate on the floor and going, I didn't fucking cook it. What are you shouting at me for? He's too scared to come out to you, and he's giving it the Billy Big Bollocks in the kitchen, and you're giving it the Billy Big Bollocks out here. I didn't cook it. I'm paid shit money to keep going in between you two. F off. You know, but the reality is Solskjaer's in that position because he goes out in front of the press, who is the customer, and the fans obviously see that. And then behind in the kitchen, you've got Woodward and the Glazers who won't come out and speak to the press either. So he's the person in the middle. He has to come out and say, oh, you know what? We might have to spend on the ground, might have to spend on Carrington. We haven't got a lot of money. Why haven't you got, so Solskjaer is not responsible here. Solskjaer is just the waiter going from back to forth. And you'll never get the real people to come and talk. God, the amount of times I've asked Manchester United to interview Ed Woodward. They'll never do it. They'll do it to people who, are going to give them nice questions. But I would just love to interview Ed Woodward. I wouldn't be an arsehole about it. I think it'd be brilliant for him to come out and speak to fans. But you won't get the questions you want, and they won't do it, unfortunately. So Ollie is the fall guy. But what Ollie always does, and he did it in January, he will do all that, but then he will throw in, of course, we're looking for better players. And he did say that. He did say, we're always looking for better players. And I think he even said something along the lines of, we've got Mason, we've got Martial, and when they hit form, they're great, but we're always looking for better players. And I thought that was very interesting because he's not stupid. He's throwing it in there that his hands are tied. He wants to say, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if I was a billionaire and I ran Manchester United and I pulled him into my office this morning and I said, no, Carrick, he can't come in, just you, Ollie. What do you want? You can have anything you want. What do you want? You're not having Mbappe, but what do you want? I guarantee you'd go, I want a world-class centre-back, I want a world-class CDM, I want a world-class right-winger, and I want a world-class striker, and I want a backup right-back. And I'd say, you know what? I might not be able to get you world-class of everything, but I will go and get you the very best I can get in all of those positions. So when Solskjaer walks out and says, we've got to be very, really responsible, this, that, and the other, they're asking him to do a job that's not his job. It's not the man. I feel sorry, and Mourinho said this as well. He said, "There's nobody above you that wants to come out and speak publicly. It's only the manager at Manchester United, and this is why we need a director of football as well." But Mourinho said this, and whatever you think about Mourinho, he was spot on about the way the club was run, and so was Van Gaal. Remember, Van Gaal said, "Bayern Munich, Manchester United. That's Bayern Munich's run like a football club. Manchester United is just not." So Solskjaer has to come out as a manager and talk about not spending much money, difficult circumstances. He's the manager. It's not his job to come out and tell us about financial difficulties and plead poverty. That manager, truthfully, would sit there and say, I want this, this, this and this. That's what a manager's job is. And unfortunately, he has to come out and be a politician. It's not fair on Solskjaer, to be honest with you. Salah Ahmed says Van der Beek on the bench, even though he was not well enough to play. Then why have him on the bench when he's not well enough to play and you can't use him at all? Says Salah Ahmed. So we'll go to that quickly because there's still a lot to talk about. I didn't do a Palace preview. Apologies. I didn't do a Crystal Palace preview. I completely forgot. So apologies for that. But effectively, Crystal Palace have got loads of injuries. They're not playing very well at the moment. This has to be this. Ollie, I'm on the menu tonight. I want you to serve up 3 points on toast. That's all it is. 3 points tonight. Now, Van der Beek is apparently not ready. Now, I don't understand this. Some people have said, well, maybe he got injured after Sunday. He's not got injured after Sunday. Ollie said Donny's not where he wants to be or where we want him to be at the moment. He's a doubt for the match against Palace. So we put him on the bench against Chelsea, but he's not even fit. And yet Scott McTominay trained once on Saturday and played 90 minutes. I just don't get this. I don't get this. And I don't know whether anybody saw that the article it's such a shame it's a match day. It's not really. I love match day. But there's so much to talk about today. You could do like 3 or 4 shows. The last Dutch manager has basically been speaking to the Telegraph in Holland, and he said that the problem with Van der Beek at Manchester United is the players are not on his wavelength. He's making runs they don't see. He's giving the ball and wanting it back, and they don't see it. And I tell you what, he's nailed it. He's absolutely nailed the issue with Donny van der Beek. It's so obvious, and so many of you spoke about it. The reason Van der Beek is failing at Manchester United is because football intelligence-wise, he's on a different level. We move the ball so slowly. We are such a pragmatic team. Donny van der Beek has been brought up on the Ajax system. Now, I'm not saying he's the best player in Ajax have ever produced, but he is a technical footballer. Now, Donny wants to press high. He wants to get the ball. He wants to make moves. He wants to pass and move. How many players have we that could Fred, pass and move? What does that mean? I pass and I move where? Where do you want me to move? He's looking at the touchline. Where do I go? McTominay's not that sort of player. Bruno is, but he can't get Bruno and Van der Beek in the same team for some reason. Rashford, I don't think Rashford's a technical pass and move player. I think he can be, but we're working on that. Dan James, no. Mason Greenwood can be. Wan-Bissaka, no. Harry Maguire and Lindelof, no. They don't move the ball quick enough. So, I think we bought a player that just doesn't suit the players that we've got. And I think the ex-Dutch coach is spot on with that. Jake Marshall, Rio spoke of 2 CDMs on his channel and blamed defence. Will he say that on TV? I'm with KG. Imagine Maguire was Spanish. Don't blame him. I blame the media. Rio has said in the past that Lindelof and Maguire give him nightmares. I don't know whether he'd go that strong on BT. I don't know whether he'd be allowed to do that. But yeah. To be honest, do you really care what Rio's saying? Do you really care what Scholes saying? Do you really care what Gary Neville's saying? Trust your own opinion. I mean, they're not playing for Man United now. They're just fans. They're just fans watching football like you. Their opinion, whilst they've played at the highest level, their opinion on watching a Manchester United game, they're watching the same game as you. They see or don't see the things you see. We know the issues, and I think it's a very good point about Donny van der Beek. Have you seen Martinez and the Skriniar story? I'm just about to bring that in, Toby. So yeah, Donny won't be involved tonight. So just very quickly, that's the team I've gone with. I think Eric Bailly surely starts tonight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays fucking Henderson, which would just be stupid. I mean, if we are that scared now that we've got to share out the goalkeeping position in the Premier League, for me, Henderson plays in the Europa League next week and David De Gea plays tonight and on Sunday. But I wouldn't be surprised if he plays Henderson because he's penciled him in. And I tell you what, I'll be bloody furious if he does that. Nothing against Henderson, but why are we sharing games out now? De Gea was man of the match at the weekend. Stick him in goal. Wan-Bissaka and Shaw. Maguire will play. Bailly should play at the back. Push the team up. That would be good. I think it will be Fred and McTominay. He could play Matic, but we need to win. So, I mean, I'd rather Matic play against Man City because we've got... To be honest with you, I know this sounds really defeatist, but what's more important? All our good players play against Man City and probably don't win, or we beat Palace. We've got to say that the Palace... We've got to get 3 points from the next 2 games, and Palace is the most important game. I mean, the derby will be huge, but I think I can look at it pragmatically and say we need to put a strong team out against Palace because we need to win. So I think it will be McTominay and Fred. Obviously Bruno. And I think the front 3, why would he change it? I don't think Cavani's going to be ready to start. If he is, you start Cavani. But, why would you bring Martial? I would play Martial. I would have played Martial against Chelsea. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but he's not available. He didn't start him against Chelsea, so why would he start him tonight? I really like Van der Beek and always have. Liked him at Ajax and excited when he joined. Looks completely different player because of the way we play. Sam, I think that's the thing to take away from Van der Beek now. I think, look, I'm with Ollie till May. I've always said that. I think we will be with Ollie beyond that, to be fair, because I think he will get top 4. But I think the Van der Beek thing, it's just not worth stressing yourself out about anymore. The reality is he doesn't get picked. And I don't think he doesn't get picked because he's not a good player. I just think he probably... You can imagine... I bet... I said yesterday about Van der Beek, I wonder what he's like in training. I bet he's not very good in training. Because if nobody's on your level, then you're not going to stand out. If he's looking for passing... he passes the ball into Dan James and Dan James puts his head down and runs into a defender, and he wants it back, or he's made a run and McTominay or Fred have got it and they just hold on to it and play crab football. Like at Ajax, people are probably picking his runs out. When he gives the ball to someone at Ajax, they probably give it him back. Like, we haven't got the players, I don't think, for Donny van der Beek, it's a shame. But I think that's the explanation. Mark, the issue is decisions. Ollie's poor choices regarding Bay, Donny and Axel. Axel still has Neymar and Mbappe in his pocket, and with the board, they've let us become Liverpool in the 90s, says AJ Singh. Well, there's always been a running theme with Manchester United from top to bottom, haven't they? Anyway, let me talk about this Lautaro Martinez story and Milan Skriniar. This is coming from Corriere dello Sport. And basically what they're saying is, let me just have a sip of water. What they're saying is that Inter Milan have missed the payment for Lukaku. So Lukaku's transfer fee obviously has been done on instalments, which is quite normal. They've missed the payments, which they are now subject to. There will be things written into the contract. And apparently Manchester United have said that they want Lautaro Martinez or Milan Skriniar. Well, the payment must be pretty hefty that they've missed if we want those two, because they're both worth over 50 million, I would say. So I don't think there's much in this story, to be honest with you. I really don't think there'll be much in it. But I would welcome Lautaro Martinez. I think he's a player that was going to Barcelona last year. I think he's very, very, very good. Would I welcome Milan Skriniar? Well, as anybody who's watching the channel for a while will know that I'm a big fan of Skriniar, but Skriniar and Maguire would not solve our problems at all. If you were going to sell Harry Maguire, I'd take Milan Skriniar, but I think Skriniar and Maguire, whilst being very different, are very similar types of centre-backs. They're not particularly fast. They're both pretty physical and good in the air. I don't think as a centre-back pairing they would work. I don't think Skriniar and Lindelof would work because you'd still have a lack of pace. I think Skriniar and Bailly would work, but we're clearly not ever going to use Bailly. So I don't think Skriniar helps Manchester United out. He's a really good centre-back, but he doesn't help United out. So if there was any truth in that, I would say Lautaro Martinez, but I don't think there's any truth in it, to be fair. Mark, also coming back to transfers, we spent around 60 million last summer, yet those players have played less than 15 matches this season. It's a shambles. Well, Angie, I think that there's a show all in itself that we normally do it around April time, sort of a summary of the signings that we've made. And Robert says that Zlatan's supposed to be out of our games. He's definitely missing the first one, and I think if he misses the first one, Robert, it's only a week later to the second one, isn't it? So Ollie's getting his lucky juice flowing again. Skriniar and Twansebi would be a dream partnership, says Fatty. And who do you think we realistically are going to get, says Sunder? Mate, I will just go for the ride on the stories that are out there, because that's what the morning show is always about. I mean, there's another story coming out from The Telegraph, I think it's James Ducker, saying that Manchester United are still very much interested in signing Jadon Sancho, which I don't dispute, but it will come down to the fee. But then it also mentions the Euros, and this is what I mean about... There has to be a level of intelligence to Manchester United fans when it comes to transfers. At some point, you've got to look at evidence. It's like ploughing a field. It's like having a field as a farmer. You know what the mud's like in that field. And if over the last 4 years you've tried to grow corn or wheat or whatever, and it doesn't really produce a very good crop, what makes you think it's going to produce a good crop this year? Like, you have to use evidence in football. We've got plenty of evidence of what United have been like in transfer windows for the last 5 years. You can look longer than that if you want to, under the Glazers and Woodward, because it's 8 years, isn't it? But over the last few years in transfers, we haven't been particularly good, and we haven't spent a massive amount net. Why does people suddenly think we're just going to chuck 80 million at Sancho, 60 million at Koundé, we'll also bid for Haaland? These things are not going to happen. But I feel when I read and listen that some people actually think that it can happen, and I don't know where they get this mindset from, because it just can't happen. We don't do that. We're not going to do that. The warnings have been put out. The club are putting it out there. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened before, and we're not going to do it now. The amazing thing about Jadon Sancho is that Dortmund will not sell him until after the Euros. So as much as I keep hearing people saying, oh, we've got Dortmund over a barrel, they need to sell. Oh, yeah, we'll be getting him for 50 million. And I'm like, well, he's got 2 years left on his contract. They wanted 120 million euros last year, and he's going to play in the Euros this year. All he's got to do is have a half-decent Euros, and his price goes up. So I don't know where this bargain talk about Sancho's coming from, because they won't want him to go for any less than 80 anyway. And if he plays in the Euros and does half-decent, that's not going to happen anyway. So I just think that, look, I know it's March, and I know what happens in March and April. We all start to get excited. Romano will start talking soon about stuff, and other people will. You know, the momentum... I think it's going to be a big transfer window, by the way. I really think it will be. We've got the Euros in the summer. There's a lot of, fans will be back in the ground next year. it will be a big transfer summer, but it doesn't mean Manchester United will be involved. It could just be Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid, whoever. And the funny thing is, keep an eye on Real Madrid and Barcelona. They've got no money. They ain't got any money. I guarantee you they'll find some money from somewhere. Somewhere they'll find some sort of financing restructuring to find some money. And it might be loans. Speculate to accumulate. But keep your eye on Real Madrid and Barcelona, and then keep your eye on what Manchester United do. Because if Real Madrid or Barcelona are back winning the Champions League in the next 2 or 3 years because of what they do this... And they're on their knees. They're not good. Neither of those teams are good at the moment. I don't care what their loyal fans... I don't care what Pete says from Stoke, who runs around in his full kit Messi. The reality is, Barcelona and Real Madrid are on their knees at the moment. Will they be on their knees in 2 years' time? I don't think they will. I think they will speculate to accumulate because it's worked before. Pellegrini and Mancini were decent managers who won the league with a good squad. Oli can do it if given the tools. It doesn't always need geniuses, says Sahaj. Yes, I agree. I do agree with you on that one. I think that you've got to give the money, and unfortunately, I think one of the most frustrating things we have as Manchester United fans at the moment is that regardless of what you think about the coaches that we've had over the previous years, the same thing runs through the club all the time, and that is the way that club is run. And look, I know people in that club, and they're very, very good people, but they will toe the party line. COVID's had a big impact on everyone. You can't go and spend the money. It's going to be really hard. We're losing so much money from match day revenue. And these things are all true. And you listen to those conversations and you say, look, I totally get that. We're all living through COVID. I know people who've lost their jobs, people who can't do anything, who run pubs and hospitality places. They're on their knees. They've not been able to make money properly for a year. I am fully aware. We are all fully aware of the financial difficulties that this last year has inflicted onto everybody. And Manchester United can legitimately tell that story. Of course they can. We haven't had fans in the ground for a year. The revenues are down massively. They are. They definitely are. But we are not Southampton. We are Manchester United. For the last 20 years and beyond, we've made millions, some would say billions. And we will do it again. Now, we are a football club, and we are trying to be the biggest football club in the world, the best football club in the world. If we sit back this summer and just go, well, we're like Southampton, we can't spend any money, whilst Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea do, well, we may as well pack up, because you can't just be a business. You've got to be a football club. You've got to find a way. Watch what Real Madrid and Barcelona do. Watch what Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool do. If they all sit there and say we can't spend money and we do it as well, fine. But I guarantee they won't. But United seem to be going, well, we're going to do that. And the reason I disagree with people within the club who start talking about COVID and everything like that is because the club is crippled by debt by the owners. The club doesn't spend what it should do because of the owners, and yet it takes money out of the club. That club could refinance some debt. It's done it before. That club can find 150 million this summer. It can easily do that. It won't, I don't think. If this club was a serious football club, I suppose the simplest thing I would say is forget the Glazers. Imagine Manchester United are in exactly the same financial position and COVID has happened, but the owner of that football club is somebody who is business savvy but also just wants Manchester United to be the best club in the world. Do you think they would sit back this summer and say to Ollie, I know what you want, Ollie, I just can't give it you because financially it doesn't make a lot of sense? I think they would find the money to do it, and they would say, look, we're going to go for it. We're going to give you, you've been here 3 years now. This is basically your last roll of the dice because the fans will turn on you if you fall out of the top four. We're going to go for it. We're going to go for it because, and this is a really important thing with Solskjaer. It's not about, oh, we're not, I'd be worried if I was Ollie because it's like, well, we've got to be responsible. This is Ollie's last summer, really, I think. I think if we don't show progress next year, the way we've played football this year, they'll start turning on him even more. So this is Solskjaer's thing. Third last year, maybe second or third this year, maybe a trophy. Next year's the defining one, because most managers don't get 3 or 4 years. So next year's the big one for Ollie. The club should be giving him the money and saying, look, I know COVID's been difficult. I know the world's a difficult place, but we can find 150 million. Don't worry about it. you probably won't get to spend much next year, or we'll just factor it in over the next 10 years because, hopefully COVID won't happen again for another 40 years. So they can do it. They should do it. This is Ollie's big summer, and I don't think they're going to deliver ultimately, and I think they should. Mark, I was thinking, could you imagine how good we would be if we had Chicharito in his prime in his team? It's my biggest issue with Martial. He just doesn't press hard enough for me. Zachary, I like Chicharito, but his build-up play was shit. Like his first touch was not very good. I think Martial gets a lot of stick. Please subscribe. A lot of people say 997,000. Maybe we've already hit it then. Bottom right-hand corner to subscribe. We were very close. Hi, buddy. Woodward and Judge, background in finance. We should be in an ideal position to refinance, but I have a feeling you're right, and we won't, says Muzzy Lions. For me, I mean, look, I did work in business a little bit. What Man United should be doing, without knowing loads about what reserves we've got, what Manchester United should be doing is they should be looking at the next 10 years and saying 15 million over the next 10 years gives us 150 million now. It's taking money over the next 10 years and using it now at margins like that and bringing that money in now. And I think the saddest thing for me is that this is Solskjaer's big year, big summer. I don't think if he doesn't, if they don't back him this summer, I don't think he will be here next summer. I don't, because I don't see that team. It can only drop. If we finish second, I don't think we'll finish second next year. So he's dropped. And I know as well, there are fans out there, whether you like it or not, whether you think they're right or wrong, there are fans out there just waiting. And Solskjaer knows it as well. They're waiting. They're waiting for a bad patch. I mean, look, we lost to Sheffield United. We were still bloody virtually top. And people were saying, get rid of him, he's not good enough. We actually are having a good season. And yet there is still this bubbling, he ain't good enough, he ain't good enough, he ain't good enough. So if they don't back him this summer, he will be gone within a year, I think. Because if we drop off, the noise and pressure will become too much for them to kick him out. So they've got to back him this summer, but I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. Realistically, do you think it will be 10 years, says Joe Harty? I don't think we're anywhere near the title. I think this year was a big opportunity, and we just... I'm not going to say we bottled it, because we haven't bottled it this year. This was the best chance we've had in years to win the title, because so many things went our way. But Man City just came through, which was always the danger. Hi, buddy. Woodward and Judge background. Have done that one. And so basically no forward this summer or a CDM, only a centre-back, says Paul Bolton. Well, I can't see us making 3 signings this summer, and I think we all know we need 3. Well, the sad thing is, we should have got the centre-back and the right winger last year, and this year it should have been a centre defensive midfielder at least. We're always behind. But it is what it is, isn't it? Over the summer, we all said we cannot blame Ollie for what happens this year. He wasn't backed and was left out to dry, and he still has us competing, says Zachary. Yeah, we did say that, Zachary, but what we also said is that Ollie can bring the blame on himself if he starts playing a bad brand of football. And I think Solskjaer I think Solskjaer is doing a fantastic job, which is why he should be given till May, and hopefully he'll get backed in the summer if he does get top 4. But I think also you can't just be blind to the fact that some of the tactics have not been good enough, because the vast proportion of blame goes to the board. It always does, but the board doesn't bench Van der Beek and Bailly, and the board doesn't pick Maguire, Lindelof and McFred in the big games, and the board doesn't basically play for draws in the big games. So there's a small proportion of it where Solskjaer definitely has to take responsibility. And people will say, well, if he had the players he wanted, that wouldn't happen. But Eric Bailly is better than Maguire and Lindelof. We all know that. And he still didn't do it. So there are responsibilities with Solskjaer. There's always 2 sides to a story, of course. But I think the vast majority of it goes on the way the club is run. Morning, Ollie won't be back this summer. He will be sacked, says Mikhail. I don't think he'll get sacked this summer, to be fair. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. We're nearly at 2,000 likes. It is a match day today. We will be live. I don't know what time kickoff it is, but we will be live, obviously, around sort of 6:30, 6:45, depending on the kickoff. You look at the squad compared to City. Look at the bench they have right now. McFred wouldn't make the bench, and Diaz made a difference to them, says Seb Watson. And this is the problem. When you're playing catch-up, and we are playing catch-up. When you're playing catch-up, you can't then go and spend less than the team you're trying to catch up. I think Man City will have a better summer than us, and yet they're already way better than us. So the gap will become bigger, not smaller. And Ollie talks about the youth, but these young players, Shoretire, looks very young to me. He looks very talented, but very young. He's not ready next year. Jimmy Garner at Forest, doing a great job. He's not ready next year. There's not really any player. I mean, even Diallo, he's hardly playing. I don't think he's going to be match ready next year. So these young players, and we've got loads and loads of good young players coming through, but they're not ready next season. They might not even be ready for the season after that. So will Ollie be here to use these players? And I think people don't register this. Solskjaer sits in a press conference and says, we might have to utilise these young players if we're not going to buy players. Effectively, that's what he's saying. He won't be here to do it. He won't be here in 2 years when these players start to be ready, because he won't. With that squad he's got, he will not be here in 2 years, because that squad is not going to get us close enough to Man City. However the club want to dress it up, they need to buy a top quality centre-back, a top quality centre midfielder and a winger who can create. Those three things are essential. They're not going to come from the youth because it's not ready yet. So if he doesn't get those three things, he can talk about improving the ground, he can talk about young players. They're not ready. And they're not going to be ready next year. So if he doesn't get the players, he will be sacked. And the sad thing is we can all see it's going to happen. But Ollie has to come out like the waiter and serve up this bullshit that we get every few years, and the cycle will continue. Do you think the Euros will affect signings, says Joel Morris? I don't think a lot of clubs will sell till after the Euros, Joel. And I think a lot of people will wait till after the Euros, because if the players they're looking to sell play well, their fee will go up, i.e. Sancho. Anyway, look, I could talk and talk and talk. We have got a watch along later on. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. And can I just say as well, please do download the OneFootball app. It's up there for you. All your latest transfer news. The Calhanoglu story was on there yesterday. Wasn't on anywhere else. So check out the OneFootball app. The link is in the video description. It's free on Apple and Android. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks for watching.